this is William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1, and the first thing I would like to say is Happy New Year's Eve. Now, as usual, any plans that I have made got messed up, and messed up big time. And it's partially due to why I am here today. For I am going to talk about the year of transformation. Now, we have gone through the year of the Great Conflagration. Now, most of you, if not all of you, are not going to be aware that I used to do the Year Of series on my blog. I would write a blog entry and I would say, this is the Year Of, and I would explain why I thought that it was going to be the Year Of. And this last presentation was the year of the Great Conflagration. And it does mean the year of the Great Fire. Now, we had a lot of fires, but we also had a lot of things happen in 2020 that was an unmitigated disaster. And I think a vast majority of us are glad to see that this year is coming to an end. So what do we look forward to in 2021? Well, I originally decided to call it the year of transition. It is going to be that, but it is also going to be, more importantly, a year of transformation. For the entire planet is going to go through a big transformation. And it's not going to be just in one area. It's going to be a complete transformation across the board in just about everything one can think of. The transformation started late this year and is going to envelop over the entire year of 2021 and beyond. And the transformation is going to be basically due to a generational change. The people in my age group, the 70-year-olds, the 60-year-olds, and on up, are basically going into retirement. Yes, there'll be some of us that are functional in society and have jobs and things that we do socially and all that stuff. But for the most part, we are going to retire. And all those underneath us, the 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, teens, and so on, are going to be taking over. And they're going to be taking over a lot. And they are going to bring with them a fundamental change and a fundamental transformation, the likes of which we have never seen. And it is abundantly clear by the trends that society is not going to be recognizable a year from now. That things that we see now and hear now and read now is going to completely change. We're going to be in a vast, different world. Not necessarily a new world, but a different world. Because the transformation and the evolution is going to be that stark. And we're going to start seeing it almost immediately. Now, the obvious transformation is going to be a change in political spectrum. We're going from a Republican to a Democratic administration. We are going from a right-wing conservative presidency to something left of center. Now, how far left it goes remains to be seen. There's a few puzzle pieces that have to fall into place before we know the answer to that question. The first being is the long shot challenge to the election results. There's a 99.9% certainty that Trump is going to fail in his attempt to stay on for another 4 years. But anything's possible. And so we need to see where the Electoral College challenge is going to go. And we have the runoff election in Georgia that is probably going to be the most important election in this cycle, more than that of the presidency, because it's going to determine who has the power in Congress. Is it going to be the Republicans or the Democrats? For if the two Republicans win their elections, then power stays with the Republicans. And Biden will have his work cut out for him, even more so than if the two candidates from Georgia win. Now, if the two candidates from Georgia win, then it is going to trigger a transformation of the country more than there will be a transition if these people win. There still is going to be a transition. It can't be stopped. Politics is only a short part of the transition. The across the spectrum transition is going to take place no matter who's in power. And the people in power are not going to be able to stop these changes. They may be able to influence them to some degree, but they're not going to be able to stop them. And this is something that people have to understand. While there's always going to be a Democrat, a Republican, or perhaps someday a third party running the country to an extent. But society determines the direction the country's going to go. Not so much the government. The government basically acts as a roadmap. But how society follows that roadmap is up to them. And the politicians are going to understand, political action committees and all these other people out there that try to wield their power are going to understand that in the end, society is going to determine the direction it goes in, not the government. And even the most repressive governments in the planet are going to discover this. They're going to discover this the hard way. And this is going to be part of the transformation, that government is going to be limited in its ultimate power. That society is going to run itself in ways that should have been anticipated, but have not been. And people are going to realize their power, even though they may not fully realize their power. They have no idea of the power that they hold in their hands, but they're about to find out. Now, there are going to be changes in things like QAnon and all these other weird groups that have cropped up. Their days are numbered. Now, I'm not saying that QAnon and all these other idiotic fantasy groups are going to cease to exist. They'll be around. They'll be like the little rats in the night, scurrying, not getting caught in the traps or what have you, trying to eat holes in the boxes of your cereal. The vermin among us. But they are going to be quite marginalized. And unless they engage in an act of violence, like the Nashville bomber, nobody's going to pay attention to them, at least nobody that matters. They're going to be in their own little world, in their own little rat hole, squeaking away their lies, their defamations, their wacky fantasies, idiotic theories, pretending to be something and somebody that they are not. For the one lesson I found out this year is there is no stopping these people. You can't shame them. You can't show the abject stupidity that they engage in, how much of a liar they are, the fact that everything they say is simply not true, and that eventually they're going to have to account for their actions. You're not going to do it on a YouTube channel or a blog or on Twitter. These people have no shame. They have no pride in themselves. They don't care what their family thinks of them. They are that stupid. And it is unfortunate that some of these people are professionals. They're doctors, they're politicians, they're people in places of power. And their stupidity has more influence than it should have. And it should give people pause when they go to a doctor or a real estate broker or other professional, and these individuals believe in QAnon, that they are getting the help of these so-called experts who may not have it upstairs. And their beliefs may be a detriment to their clients' safety and security. You know, if I'm going to engage the services of someone such as a doctor, I want to know that these people have a little bit of common sense, because common sense drives expertise. When a doctor gives you a diagnosis of an ailment or a course of treatment, they are using not only their expert training, but their own common sense to determine how things are going to happen to you. And this can lead to a detrimental effect if they lack that common sense. When you rely on someone for expert advice or expert services, you expect that person to have basic common sense, basic intelligence. And when someone comes along that has a belief system such as QAnon, where common sense literally goes out the window, then you have cause to worry. And I think more and more people are going to start checking not only into the professional training of whomever they hire or go to for what have you, but they're also going to start checking into what this person believes. They're going to check social media to see if this person is a QAnon or part of Anonymous or some other thing before they take the time to check their credentials. Because if a person is a QAnon, I certainly don't want them treating me for any medical issues, and I certainly am not going to go to them for legal advice or real estate advice or any expert advice, because they don't have common sense. And the one thing that is prominent in anybody that is a QAnon is that they believe in lies. They lie themselves. The QAnons don't use common sense. They don't research. They don't bother to do much anything. They just say, well, because that guy has a D or an R after their name, or because they are for or against something, they're part of the deep state. And they lack the common sense to understand that the functions of governments is not that basic. There's a lot of complicated things that go into it. And thus, the QAnon movement is going to continue. But it's going to be marginalized. Now, I really have not cared about QAnon specifically. I think it's garbage. I think the people who follow it are, at best, misguided, and at worst, just plain dishonest with themselves. But, if people want to believe in crackpots, that's their choice. But there is a faction within the QAnon society that I have a direct conflict with. And this is the PPTF, the High Command, the Task Force, and this idiotic, unqualified, and stupid individual that calls himself a journalist. These people do not believe in the truth. They lie, and they lie knowingly. They know when they sit down and start putting things on the internet that they're lying, that they simply are not telling the truth, that they are frauds, and they don't care. They don't care what their family thinks of them. They don't care what society thinks of them. They don't care what people in their workplace think of them. They simply don't care. They are selfish people. They attack people that are guilty of nothing. They attack law-abiding citizens. They attack hardworking people. They attack people that simply want to live their lives and be left alone. Because they're selfish. They want attention. They want recognition. If it's negative recognition, doesn't matter. They recognize. Because they know that out of every 10,000 people, there's going to be one person that believes what they say. That's all they want. They only want that one person. Because this is a country of 360 million people. And it's a global population of well over 3 billion people. And a lot of those people are on the internet. So 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 100,000 is a lot of people. So if they get that attention, it feeds them. It feeds their lack of self-esteem. Because at least they get attention. They get someone out there that will listen to their nonsense. They may get laughed at. They may get joked about. There may be videos made about them. But they get that attention. They crave it. Well, in 2021, my attention to these people is going to decrease. Because in business, we have a philosophy. You need to cut your losses. When you see that something isn't going well, a product isn't selling, a service isn't popular, something isn't, you change direction. You change the format of your business or what have you, and you cut your losses. Just to say, well, I lost this battle. I might as well cut my losses and come up with something different. And that's what's going to happen here. Now, I'm not going to completely stop exposing these grifters, cheaters, liars. What I am going to do, however, is I am going to considerably cut back. Now, this is something I've always intended to do. But because of circumstances and some of the idiocies these people come up with in order to garner attention, I haven't done that. And I've been rightfully criticized for it. But I am going to start the change this year. It's going to be gradual. What I will be doing is I will be covering as best I can a number of upcoming trials. We have a murder trial in Ocala, Florida coming up. We have 2 trials involving a woman in Colorado coming up, 2 separate trials. And there are other trials in the works. Field McConnell's situation is going to be covered. There have already been some interesting developments in that area, but I will get to them next week. But there's a whole bunch of things going on in 2021. But there's going to be more than that. There's going to be some everyday, mundane, unimportant things that I'm going to be doing. the Mesa project that I have had on hold for God knows how long is going to be one of them. Actually, it's the Mesa project, but either. There's the Townie project, the T10 project, and other projects where I will be doing some more mundane things. Things similar to what a lot of videos have been doing on YouTube. Not so much political or anything else. And I also will be making commentary on things that I am personally interested in. Outer space, our space technologies, aerospace, solar power, wind power, all kinds of technology that I'm interested in. I'm also going to be going old school, getting into old school things, and I'll be going over that as time moves forward. Because it's time for me to get back to what I am really interested in rather than this other nonsense. My heart, as it were, really hasn't been in it. I really wasn't that interested in QAnon, and I certainly wasn't that interested in these vermin that I've had to contend with for the last 10 years. And I've paid way too much attention to this vermin. And it's time to ignore the vermin, at least on the internet. Now, there may be ways that I am going to deal with the vermin that is not going to be public. And I can assure you of that. And that's partly the reason why I am going to stop discussing about them, because things are moving forward, things are happening, whether these people want to believe it or not. But they're going to find out the hard way. They're going to get blindsided, because I'm not going to be here to warn them, to let them know that their days are numbered. They're going to find that out completely on their own. They wanted to have free reign to say what they want to say, so they have it. They're going to continue their defamation. They're going to continue their lies. They're going to continue to damage those of us who believe in truth and honesty. But that's them. But they're going to find that there's more powerful adversaries out there than me or people that they know. There are some unknowns in the woodwork that I've been communicating with, people that they have no idea are aware of their presence. And these are people with a great deal of power and have a great deal of resources that can effectively deal with these people and deal with them honestly and legally. The best way to attack a known is with the unknown. These people are not going to know what hit them. They do not know the enemies that are in the background, the people that have been watching and waiting for the perfect moment to make them accountable for their actions. A lot of things take time. You don't do things in the moment or the second. Sometimes it takes days, weeks, and even months. But eventually, the trap will go off, and the vermin will be dealt with. The one thing I have noticed over the past few years is that we have lost all the teachings that we had, at least in my generation, growing up. We were taught not to lie. We were taught not to steal. We were taught not to exaggerate, conflagration, any of that stuff. It was basically, we were taught the 10 Commandments. And the 10 Commandments apply whether you are religious or not. You can be an atheist and still believe in the 10 Commandments, because the 10 Commandments are basically a guidebook, rules of the road, a way you're supposed to conduct yourself as a member of society. And when you decide that you are not going to follow any of the 10 Commandments, then the guidebook is worthless. You might as well throw it away. And this is especially true of those out there who claim to believe in a God. If you cannot follow the 10 Commandments to the letter, then your belief in God is a lie. God is said to have written the 10 Commandments. Put them on a stone tablet and given them to Moses and say, here, this is the word of God. This is God's law. Go spread it. But nobody's following God's law. The most starkly devoted religious person in the world is not following the teachings of God. Comes up with excuses why. Said, I'm doing this because the ends justify the means. God would understand. No, God would not understand. If you believe what is written in that Bible, then you have to understand that you're not following God's law. And this get out of jail free card of going to a Saturday confessional or however you repent for your sins isn't going to cut it. It's a cop-out. So anybody that comes up to me that says that they're a Christian and they believe in God and all this, it goes in one ear and right out the other, because you're no better than the atheist. An atheist is actually more honest than the most devout Christian, because at least the atheist believes in what he believes, and he abides by the doctrine. But even an atheist abides by certain tenets. A vast majority of them follow the 10 Commandments. They believe in a reasonably regulated society. They believe in practical things. They believe in science. They believe there's a reason why you have certain rules, why you wear seat belts, why you have airbags, why you have a car that if you hit somebody at 60 miles an hour, it crushes up like an accordion. It keeps both you and the person it hits alive. But that can't be said for a majority of Christians. And I don't care if this offends you Christians out there, but the truth is the truth. I deal with Christians every day. The person that attacks me nonstop with some of the worst lies you could tell about somebody is a Christian. He believes in God. I don't know if the guy goes to church or if he reads the Bible, but he declares he's a Christian. And so when someone like that comes across as a Christian, I don't have much choice except to believe that Christians cannot be trusted. That if somebody says that they're an evangelical or they're a Christian or they're born again or any of this other crap, I steer away from these people. I'm wary of these people. My guard goes up. And sorry, Christians, you've done that to yourselves because of what your conduct has been for many, 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 many years. I have grown up around Christians all my life. And some of the worst people that you can meet are Christians. Yes, there's good Christians, but there's an overwhelmingly number of bad Christians out there. It's just a fact of life. And I have had to deal with them all my life and continue to deal with them. The Christians that are the task force, the Christians that are the high command, and this, that, and the other things. All liars, all frauds, all deceivers, all vermin. Truth is truth. I'm not going to lie. It's just the way it is. But that's part of the fundamental change that's going to happen. I think you're going to find that because of the actions of a lot of Christians, a lot of people are going to turn away from Christianity. They're going to turn away from a belief in a spiritual being. They're going to turn away from a belief in God, and they're going to start believing in themselves. The days of the mega churches are numbered. There's going to be fewer of them as time goes on, because people are going to start seeing that giving big money to mega churches isn't going to do them any good, and all they're going to do is buy the preacher his jet airplane or his limousine or the $30 million mansion. And they're going to see Christianity and evangelicalism as a fraud. That they can take that $100 a month or whatever it is they're giving to the preacher and go out and buy beer instead. This is what these mega churches have created. And this is what these frauds who go around saying that they're third from the President of the United States has created. They have caused people to steer away from their God, their Christianity. And like it or not, that's part of the transformation. There's all kinds of things that are going to transform. As society shifts into a new direction, not left, not right, not center, just a completely new direction. A direction of independent thought, independent action, independent everything. You're going to see people not joining clubs as much. You're not going to see people grouping as much. I mean, yeah, there'll be groups, but not the vast super groups. People are going to start doing things individually. We're going to be a closed society. The only way you're going to be able to talk to anybody or interact with anybody is going to be on the internet. When you're out in society doing your grocery shopping, doing your banking or whatever it is you do, you're not going to interact with people as much. As self-checkouts come more common, you're not going to have cashiers to say, hello, how are you doing? Ask questions of and complain about when the coupon doesn't work. You're going to be talking to a machine. We already talk to machines for recordings and stuff. But we're going to increasingly be interacting with machines. We're going to be having robots work beside us more and more and more. There's areas of the economy that are going to be infiltrated by robots. Now, I recommend people go out, watch a movie called I, Robot, because that is our future. It's not some science fiction fantasy. It's a future. Robots are going to increase tenfold. And it's going to be a lot of negative changes come about. For every negative, there's a positive. For every positive, there's a negative. I don't know if one is going to outweigh the other, but they're going to be there. There'll be some negative things that come out. But hopefully the positives will make life easier. But the country is gradually getting younger. It's going to be the younger people that are going to carry on, and they're going to decide what becomes of this transformation. Those of us who are 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years old, we're just along for the ride. We may contribute something to society as a whole, and we may be able to have some influence, but it's waning, and it's waning every hour of every day. We're becoming the dinosaurs of the new age. We're these old buzzards that people are going to have to take care of until we finally cease to exist. We're probably going to be a burden on society in one form or another until we cease to exist. Well, eventually we'll be no more, and it'll be somebody else's turn at the wheel. And it will be them to determine the path. And that's part of the transformation that's going to happen this year. The pandemic, strangely enough, has accelerated it, because the vast majority of the 350,000 people that have died in the United States alone are people in my age bracket. So there's a lot fewer of us around. And so the youngsters are in the playground. It's up to society to determine what games they're going to play and what fights they're going to get into and what gets created and what gets destroyed. So I would buckle up, Buttercup, for it's going to be one hell of a ride. Now, I will not be live streaming at all this weekend. I just don't have the time. There's too much going on right now. And it looks like at least for the next 5 days, I'm going to be up to my elbows and stuff that I need to get done. For some weird reason, I have gotten incredibly busy. And because of that, it's affecting my online existence. Now, there's going to be mobile-thons, and you can read my tweets and retweets on Twitter and whatever I decide to do on Facebook. But for the near future, as far as I can determine, there's not going to be any live streams. YouTube, in their infinite lack of wisdom, has decided that for the time being, I am not going to have the capability of being able to live stream mobily. And because of that, there can be no current interaction. Everything has to be done through recordings. And the only way there can be any interaction is if any of you people decide you want to comment on any of my presentations. If you don't comment, you don't comment. But that's the extent of my abilities right now. So to finish this off, I would like to wish everyone, including my adversaries, a happy new year. May you live your lives for the better. May the hate go away. May the dishonesty go away. May the lying go away. For you'd be better off for it. You will find that life is easier to survive if you don't lie, if you don't hate, if you don't steal, and so forth. Because we all have a limited time on this planet. Our lives could end in a second. Our ability to do anything could end in a second. So it is best you make the most of the time that you have left. I'm sure that Chris Hallett's family had wished for that. I'm sure that Neely Blanchard's family wished for that, along with Cynthia Absug and others, instead of wasting their lives on lies and nonsense. Their futures have been predetermined. Their futures were and will be bleak. But for the rest of us, we can decide at this very second that we are going to have a better future and change what we say and do to make the best of our everyday situations. For if we don't, it's just a waste. So again, Happy New Year. all the best. This is William K. Murtaugh, Murt Witness 1. Have a good one.